always been keen on the sons of Tappet. You know, we've done well with him. You know, he's broken out quite well. He's a beautiful mover, potentially a really nice two-turn horse going forward. We're really kind of very fond of him.
We bought the Tappert filly out of the Blue Eyes in the Rain filly at the Keeneland sale. What we really liked about her was obviously her physique. We liked the way she moved, and we just fell in love with her from the start, really.
Tappert, standing at Gainesway.
Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona with another edition of the TimeformUS Road to the Derby series presented by Gainesway, as Gainesway is presenting all of our Kentucky Derby prep coverage at DRF this season. And things are really heating up as we get to this first Saturday in March. There are 3 Derby preps taking place across the country on Saturday. In this video, we're going to focus on the one taking place down in Florida, the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth, their future race on a 13-race Gulfstream Park card on Saturday. This is race 12 of 13. Let's throw up the field for this race. The 3-year-olds are going 1 mile and a 16th with a short stretch run, that unusual configuration at Gulfstream Park. And we've got a field of 13 signed on with 1 also eligible entrant. But I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon and just saw the news that that also eligible Galt will draw into the race because, as you see here on this graphic, the number 12 Mo Donegal was declared out of the race on Wednesday morning. He came up with a slight temperature, so Todd Pletcher did announce that he will not be running in the Fountain of Youth. I think the word is that he will train up to the Wood Memorial in about 4 weeks' time, 5 weeks' time. So there will be 12 to go this 1 mile and a 16th distance at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, a full field breaking from the gate. And the number 8, Emmanuel, listed at 9-2 on the morning line. I would imagine with the scratch of Mo Donegal, his uncoupled stablemate, that Emmanuel could go favorite in this race. The morning line favorite is the number 2, Simplification, at 7-2. But I do think that Emmanuel is going to take a lot of money since there is quite a bit of buzz about this undefeated 2-for-2 runner from the Todd Pletcher barn. But a competitive field signed on. Let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector to see how these horses could sort themselves out towards the front end. And you've got some horses that are stretching out from shorter races, some horses that are trying 2 turns for the first time. In that category is the number 9, High Oak, who's making his 3-year-old debut here, stretching out off some sprint races as a 2-year-old, as well as the number 1, Mark Hamian, another horse who's trying 2 turns for the first time, who has shown speed in some sprint races. So I think it's natural to expect that both of those horses will be placed towards the front end. The number 2, Simplification, another horse that has won in gate-to-wire fashion in the past, though he did come from off the pace in the Holy Bull last time. He is a horse that does have the speed to be involved in the pace. I do want to highlight the position of the number 8, Emmanuel, that horse that I do think will vie for favoritism, if not be the outright favorite in this race. He's shown back in about 6th place on the pace projector, but I would not be surprised if he's a lot more forwardly placed than that. He did show high speed in his sprint race when he debuted first time out, was involved in a much slower pace last time, which we'll get into a little bit more when we take a look at the TimeformUS PPs, but I think that's the reason why he's shown a little bit farther back than people might have expected on the pace projector. And speaking of Emmanuel, let's take a look at his last race when he won going the 2 turns at Tampa Bay Downs. Now, he was a heavy favorite this day, going off at 3-10 odds, and you can see coming into the stretch here, he's just kind of toying with this field. His rider, Pablo Morales, on this day really has not asked him for his best yet until they come into the final 8th of mile, and once he kind of shakes the reins at him, this horse is going to open up on the field in the late stages, do so very impressively. Like the extra distance was really no problem for him, though he did get to set a very slow pace in that allowance win last time, and you can see that in the TimeformUS PPs right here. That 107 TimeformUS final time number that he got for the race, that equates to like an 87 buyer. It's actually a pretty strong number, and it's kind of pretty much in line with the 89 buyer that he did receive for that race, but you can see he gets a big pace downgrade in the TimeformUS PPs for that race because he set such a slow pace on the front end. Those opening pace figures of 58 and 58 for the opening couple of calls are just as slow as you're going to see a horse set for a winning pace in a race at 1 mile and 40 yards. So Emmanuel really did have everything go his way last time. Not sure how much that mattered, though, because he was just never losing that race going off at such a short price. He has shown high ability in both career starts, but he's getting a serious class test here as he moves up to face graded stakes company for the first time. And I've got a DRF formulator fact for Todd Pletcher that I do want to highlight. You know, people think of Todd Pletcher as just being invincible at Gulfstream Park, as just winning graded stake after weekend, but not necessarily the case when you look up the numbers, and especially in races going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt at Gulfstream Park. In graded stakes races, Todd Pletcher is just 2 for 21 over the past 5 years. Kind of mind-boggling. He's only won 2 of these races over the past 5 seasons at Gulfstream Park. Just a 10% 50% win rate with a pretty low ROI. And when you look up in Formulator, all of the horses in this sample, there are a lot of short prices that lost. So makes me a little bit wary of backing Emmanuel at what is likely to be a pretty short price with his stablemate scratching from this race. Let's take a look at the horse that is listed as the morning line favorite, the number 2 Simplification, and check out his last race when he was the runner-up in the Holy Bull, the local prep for this Fountain of Youth. That Simplification coming into the stretch with the blue shadow roll and the white cap on the outside, and a little bit odd to see this horse trying to close from off the pace because he's a runner that had shown a lot of early speed in his prior races, but at the start of this race, he was kind of moving back and forth in the starting gate and just looked like he was a little bit caught off guard when the starter sprung the latch, which caused him to be off towards the back of the field. So he kind of had to play catch up for the entire race. I thought all things considered, he did a nice job to get up into second place. The big question for me is, how strong was that Holy Bull? It's a number that some speed figure makers have had pretty fast. I know the Beyer speed figure came back very high for the winner. I think White Abario got a 97 Beyer. My colleague Craig Milkowski, who makes the TimeformUS speed figures, he rated the race much lower. It was the only route race of the day, leading to some uncertainty about how fast the track was playing for that 2-turn distance. And Simplification, the 102 TimeformUS speed figure that he got for his last race, kind of right in line with the 105 that he got in the Mucho Macho Man for his prior start, considering the slow break of the Holy Bull. And it really does not give him that much of an advantage over his rivals in this Fountain of Youth. I think it makes him a win candidate, but it wouldn't really want to make me back him at a very short price. And we'll see how much the public bets this horse in the face of that lightly raced up-and-comer from the Todd Pletcher stable, Emmanuel. Though, just one more thing about Simplification, he showed at least last time that he handled the mile on the 16th distance. And with a clean break from the number 2 post position on this day, I think we're likely to see him revert to those forwardly placed tactics. Another horse that I think is going to attract some consideration in this Fountain of Youth is the number 6 Rattle N Roll. Let's take a look at his last race all the way back in October of his 2-year-old season at Keeneland when he won the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity. Now, he was supposed to run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile off this victory at Keeneland last year, but had a setback, was forced to miss that race. Now he's coming back off a pretty lengthy layoff for a 3-year-old. He's been off for about 5 months coming into this race. So he's got to prove that he's ready to fire a top effort coming off that break. And he's also going to have to take a step forward from a speed figure standpoint. He was visually impressive winning that Breeders' Futurity, but in retrospect, I think it remains to be seen what he was facing. Classic Causeway, the main other rival for him in that race, was involved in a pretty quick pace, breaking from the far outside post. So I'm not sure that the margin between those two horses is really indicative of their relative talents. And Rattle N Roll got a respectable 104 TimeformUS speed figure. I do believe he's going to have to run faster to beat this Fountain of Youth field. And furthermore, I've been watching some of his recent workouts at Gulfstream Park. He's been very washy in the morning. When you watch his last couple of workouts, he's had to be asked to achieve those fast times. It was coming off a 58 and change, 5 furlong drill. Not nearly as visually impressive as that final time. When you go back and watch the workout, he was actually looking second best to his stablemate. So I'm a little bit concerned about the condition of Rattle N Roll coming back off the layoff, and I would want to veer away from him if he gets bet down off that 12-1 morning line. Another horse that could attract some play, and I think rightly so, in this Fountain of Youth is the number 4, In Due Time. Let's take a look at his optional claiming nominators of 1 victory last time at Gulfstream Park. So he's got that experience over the course, though this victory did come going the 1-turn mile, and he'll be stretching out to the 2-turn mile on the 16th here. But I thought he did everything right trying the mile for the first time last time out after stretching out off a couple of sprint races for Kelly Breen. Seemed like he really relished the added ground here. He's beating a couple of pretty promising Todd Pletcher runners. The runner-up American Icon was bet down to 4-5 in this race off a pretty impressive maiden victory, and In Due Time just ran right by him at the top of the stretch. It's not like In Due Time got that much pace to close into that day. They were coming a pretty moderate clip up front that he just made that big move off the far turn to shut the door on that field and went off by nearly 6 lengths. He's going to have to take another step forward here, but that 106 TimeformUS speed figure stacks up very well against those two contenders that I just highlighted, like Simplification and Rattle N Roll, who are also coming off good performances against Stakes Company. So I think moving up in class, In Due Time could fit pretty well in this race, and he's drawn well in post 4 in this 12-horse field. Another horse that's drawn right outside of In Due Time is Dean Delivers, and he's a horse that's coming off actually the highest TimeformUS speed figure of anybody in this field. He got a 113 TimeformUS speed figure when he was the runner-up in the Grade 3 Swale last time, and some people might like him off that good performance, but he's going to be stretching out in distance for the first time, and I want to highlight this pedigree information that you can access in DRF Formulator. When you look up the breeding statistics in Formulator, these are the detailed stats for Dean Delivers' sire, Cajun Breeze, and something that jumped out at me, highlighted in red here, is Cajun Breeze has had quite a few foals to hit the track at this point, but none of his progeny have ever won a dirt route. That's a little bit concerning for a horse that's going to be stretching out in distance for the first time. So I was going a little bit against Dean Delivers off that concerning pedigree information. A horse that is stretching out that interests me quite a bit in this race is the number 11, O Captain. Let's go all the way back to August of 21 and take a look at his maiden victory when he won his debut at Gulfstream Park. Now, this horse is pretty impressive this day. I get it. He was beating absolutely nothing. He was bet down to 3-2, probably partly because of the competition. But I like the way this horse is striding through the stretch. He's got this big loping action, kind of running like a horse that I think is not really going to have that much problem stretching out in distance. And when I look at this horse's pedigree, it does lead me to believe that at a distance is going to be his friend. He's by Carpe Diem. A lot of those progeny do want to go longer. I wouldn't say that Carpe Diem has been kind of setting the world on fire as a sire just in general, but that's partly partly the reason that this horse only sold for $17,000 as a yearling. What's more interesting to me is the dam side pedigree. His dam mama Nadine was a confirmed dirt router and a pretty good one at that. And also she's produced a horse named Royal Sun, who was a good routing type on both the dirt and synthetic courses. Now, last time out, O Captain came back off a long layoff. We hadn't seen him in nearly 6 months since that August debut when he ran at Gulfstream Park in January trying the Limehouse Stakes. And he had some trouble at the start of that race, was off a bit slowly, had to alter course around a horse that was unfortunately injured in the early portion of the race, had to go around that horse and kind of just lost some position, but was kind of staying on at the end, making up a little bit of ground. Only got an 85 TimeformUS speed figure, which is not competitive in this race, but let's take a look at the chart for that Limehouse Stakes in TimeformUS PPs. You can click through to look at the chart for that race, and I want to highlight some of the runbacks coming out of that O Captain race because 3 horses have come back to run, and they've all significantly improved their speed figures coming out of that race, most of them by 10 points or more. So I wonder if maybe that Limehouse was a slightly stronger race than it seemed at the time, and I think that O Captain, stretching out in distance, could take a step forward. He's listed at 30-1 on the morning line, and I think that's fair because he's a horse that does have a lot of improving to do, and I'm kind of making a few leaps of logic to get him into the winner's circle, but I'm just not bowled over by any of the favorites in this race, some of whom I think are going to be bet down shorter than they really should be. And this horse is guaranteed to be a massive price. So I just want to highlight him, give my push and pitch on him. And I think he's the horse that you can fool around with, if not to win, even in exotics. So let's throw out my picks for this race. And as you can see, I did put that number 11 O Captain on top, just wanting to highlight a horse that I think is going to offer a ton of value and be a price. He's got things working against him with the post position, but like I said, I don't worry about that stuff too much when a horse is going to be such a big price and I've got an idea about him. I got the number 2 Simplification in second. I just think he's super logical in this race, likely to work out a good trip. We'll see what kind of price he goes off at. And the same for the number 8 Emmanuel. I do think this horse is pretty talented coming out of the Todd Pletcher barn, but I would imagine he's going to get bet down quite a bit off that 9-2 morning line. So that's a look at the Fountain of Youth Stakes on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Thanks to Gainesway for presenting this video, and good luck to you if you're playing the races this weekend.